Do you know three warning signs you should watch out for, whether you're dating or whether you're married? If not, stay tuned. You do not want to miss today's episode. Thank you for tuning in today. My amazing guest today is Shiloh Minor. She is a love coach for married women. That's not something that you hear often, so this is going to be a really cool interview. Welcome, Shiloh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I have to ask, how did you become a coach just for married women? Because most people are like couples and everything, right? But
Right,
did you specify?
right. So it came out of my own experience. I had been someone interested in love and relationships my whole life, read all the couple books, loved them. And then I got married to a wonderful man, and then we had two kids, and then we hit the rocks and just like couldn't communicate. And none of these couple things I had read were working for me because he didn't want to read the books or do the exercises, or, communication had broken down. And I was at a crossroads, like, what am I going to do here? He doesn't want to work on it, but he doesn't want to get a divorce. And I don't want to get a divorce, but I need it to improve. And so I went on my own mission to figure out how can a relationship be affected when you don't have that cooperation or buy-in from, sorry, there's a noise outside. I'm sorry, my husband's doing renovations right now.
No
Um,
worries.
it's how do you improve that relationship when you don't have the buy-in at the beginning from your partner? And so I figured out how to do that. And once I had restored our relationship, and now it's even better than at the beginning, I immediately thought there's got to be so many women like me where it's like there's nothing really wrong with your husband, there's nothing really wrong with you, but you just can't meet in a way to create the relationship you need it to be.
Yeah. Wow. So, like, what are some signs where, at what point should a woman feel like, okay, I need help with this? Like, what are some signs that like they need your help?
Yeah, so that's a great question. One would be that you have tried to talk to him a lot of times. Like you're like, I'm trying to communicate. I've gone and had the conversations, and either I get like dismissed or kind of deflected, or it's like, ah, it's not that bad. Like you're never feeling heard, like the words are never landing.
Mhm.
And you go back being like, there's nothing else to do. Like for me, it was what I'm doing is not working. If you're trying really hard to work on your marriage and be this like amazing wife and it's just not working and you're not getting your needs met, then you should ask for help, because a lot of the things we instinctually do to make our marriages better actually make them worse.
Ooh, do tell.
Well, the first and number one thing is we people please. We try to make our husband happy by any means necessary. Like, oh, I'm gonna like make his favorite food, or I'm gonna like, be around all the time and be cute and be lovable. And then we like hate him because now we've been overgiving so much and he hasn't done anything back.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can dig yourself a deeper hole by trying to be like the perfect wife.
Yeah. I always say perfection does not exist. So yeah, that would drive you nuts. I can see that. So do you ever have like clients who they haven't gotten married yet, but they're about to get married and they have either some issues already or they want to avoid some issues?
Yes, definitely. So even though, I say I'm for married women, a lot of women will come to me who want to be married and they want to have a beautiful marriage, and kind of similar situation. They might be engaged or
Yeah.
like wanting to get engaged, but this relationship just keeps like going through that groundhog day of like, oh, it gets really good. And then we have a big fight. And then I feel like it's back to square one. I don't know if we're going to last. And it's like really emotionally taxing. And they want to create that harmony that they can rely on. It's not like, is today going to be a good day? Can I ask him to go on this vacation with me or visit my parents? Or is he going to get mad? And then now it's like, oh, we're not doing that anymore. So
Yeah.
definitely those people reach out to me. And what I always say to them is that if you have what I would consider like a traditional good man, you're in a good situation. Like if he's a provider, if he's honest, if he's providing for you, he's honest, and he's not like overly critical about you. like a traditional man is more quiet. Like he's not gonna go and start a fight. He might react to your fights and he might like hit back emotional, like verbally, if you start being like, you're not doing it right. But he mostly wants a peace. Like that's a traditional man. And so if you have a guy like that, I can very easily teach you relationship skills to help him soothe and calm down and feel safe. And then so you can feel safe too.
Yeah.
Ready to transform your life or just tired of feeling stuck? Conquer stress, boost confidence, overcome fears, and more. Unlock your potential with a private mindset coaching session with Angela. Your breakthrough begins here. Visit newmindsetnow.com. So don't wait. Book your session now.
So I have to ask you, something just popped into my head. I know there are like shows about it, like reality dating shows or whatever. How do you feel about ultimatums in a relationship?
I think ultimatums are only useful when they're just the truth, you know, like they should not be used as a tactic.
Mm,
Like, oh, if I tell my husband I'm going to leave him if he doesn't marry me or my boyfriend, then he'll marry me because I threatened to leave. You are in a dangerous territory because if you aren't actually wanting to leave if he doesn't marry you and he says no, now you got egg on your face because you bluffed and you lost.
yeah.
And also it destroys trust in the relationship because women will, when we get desperate, so we want something, we'll start these manipulation tactics. And your husband, your boyfriend, he's not dumb.
Yeah.
He knows you're playing games. He's like, this isn't real. I don't want to be with someone who's going to try and strong arm me into doing something with a bunch of threats. Like it's really, when you say ultimatums, when they're not real, they're just threats. If you
Yeah.
don't do this, I'm going to do that. If you don't do this, I'm going to do that. Like everybody hates hearing that.
Yeah.
However, if you're genuinely ready to walk away and you're like, I wanted to be married, you know, I told you, maybe you've been living with a guy for a while and you're like, I told you I want to be married within a year and it looks like you're not moving in that direction. I need to know because if this is not something you want, I will walk away. Like that's a genuine, I'm going to do it. I'm committed to my path.
Right. I can see how that can also cause like a spiral that you don't want because you look immature and it's like you can cause somebody to lose respect for you. And what you don't want from a partner is to lose their respect. I think that would be just devastating to relationships.
Completely. They lose respect and they lose trust. And those are the two things. You can't have a relationship without those things.
Yeah. Yeah. So have you ever worked with guys too, or is it always just, was it ever couples or has it always just been women?
I started out working with women, and in the process, I had a few men reach out to me. So
Really?
they were like, you know, usually their wife was out the door, their wife was given the ultimatums, and they were like, I don't want to lose my family. Like, I know I haven't been perfect, but I don't want to lose my family. And so I've worked with men a few times. But I'll say what's really tragic about men is they mostly don't get help until it's too late because that's how they're wired. They think it's okay, I'll just keep working hard, it'll be fine. And
Mhm.
it's like when the wife hits them overhead with a 2x4, she's like already out the door.
Mm,
And so they'll put in a lot of effort at that point and really dig deep, but it can be sad. And that's why I love working with women because women notice way earlier that something is going to be a problem, and then we can get it before it causes so much damage.
yeah. Do you find that one listens to you more than the other?
No, I mean, when people come to work with me, they're so ready.
Okay,
They're
good.
just like, tell me what to do and I will do it because like I'm done with this misery. Like I will try everything you say. And I actually find men, what has been so interesting working with men is they're willing to do everything I say, but it is much more difficult for them to grasp the emotional nuances necessary.
Mm,
Like when you're talking about like being present emotionally or like holding space for someone emotionally, it's really hard for them to like step into those shoes even when they really want to.
yeah,
So it's given me a lot of compassion for men in general, where we as women are like, don't you get it? Like just listen and like empathize. It's that simple.
yeah,
And they're like, well, actually, no, I don't get it. And you're making me feel really dumb right now
yeah,
because I don't know how to listen and just empathize. Like it's not part of my wiring. And
yeah,
so, yeah, that's been a really cool experience for me to see it from both sides.
yeah. I can definitely see, like, especially like the term whole space. You're like, okay, what? Like, like we get it, right? The women get it. But like, you guys are like, hold what and how, right? Yeah,
Right,
I think
right.
that's hilarious. So I also wanted to ask you, what's the first, so when a woman knows she's struggling in her marriage and she comes to you, what's the first thing you tend to tell her?
So the first thing I always tell women is put yourself first. That when you get into the habit of pleasing your man and trying to fix the relationship, you're neglecting your own well-being and your own emotional health. And the only thing that makes a relationship amazing is a woman's health and well-being. If we are drained out and we're bitter and we're burnt, it just, there's no, like, we're the sun in that relationship. Like, we bring the warmth, we bring the reason to be there. We are why men do all this stuff, right? Because they want a glowing, lovely woman in their lives. And so when we think we're going to fix it by doing for our kids and doing for our husbands, and then hopefully someone will do for us in the end, that's where you get into that downward spiral. So we spend a lot of time at the beginning being like, what do you really need to be okay? What do you need in your life so that you're peaceful, so you're happy, so you feel valued and fulfilled? And that can be like the last thing on a lot of women's minds, right? They're trying to make everything work, but you cannot create beauty in your life unless you feel beautiful on the inside.
Yeah. Do you find, since sometimes we're so conditioned to put everyone else first, right? And to carry all the loads on our back because we can do it, we're super women or whatever. Do you find that sometimes it's a struggle to get them to consider themselves even?
Yeah, it's definitely brings up a lot of hard feelings like guilt and shame, like, oh, I'm being selfish now, and I get my worth from the fact that I do for others and people need me. Like, a lot of my clients are like that go-to friend. There's emergency, they get called and they spring into action, and they're wonderful givers and it's beautiful, but yeah, they'll start to realize at a certain point, like, I would like someone to give to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way I try to help them get over that hurdle of like, aren't I being selfish? And isn't this kind of like a bad woman thing to do? Is that your husband feels good when he's providing for you in all kinds of ways. So if he's giving you something and it makes you happy, that is a gift to him. Like, you're actually giving him more by receiving and being happy than by doing a whole bunch of stuff for him. And once they start to see that, like, oh, and not even just men, like, everybody likes to give, and you get to support that cycle by being the receiver sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so once you see that it actually does make other people feel good to receive from them and be on that end of the exchange, then it gets easier over time.
I can see that. So what do you think about people going to their friends for advice or venting about their spouse to their friends?
It's a really hard one because we as women do need to vent. Like, we have to get stuff out. It's part of our self-care is to get the emotions out. And so it's not that you can't talk to anyone, but you need to choose very wisely who you vent to. And they need to be, one, emotionally mature, someone who's not going to make it worse by spinning the story in your head even more negative than you had it. Like, actually, he sounds like a narcissist. And you know what? I think that's abuse. And you should, like, that bitter friend who's either always single or been divorced many times is poison. You need to not have those women in your life if you want to be happily married. And then if you can pick someone who's elderly and been married a long time, that is your ideal, because they will have seen all the ups and downs and nothing will ruffle their feathers. And then the other thing is to be really clear with people what you need from them. So, like, I really need to vent about this. I love my husband. He's a good man. I don't want to like drag him through the mud, but like, my feelings are hurt. I just need to get it off my chest. So that they're knowing what their role is. Like, they're there to support your marriage by allowing you to let off some steam, as opposed to take your side in the fight and be like, yeah, he is wrong because you're my friend.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you recommend letting off some steam before you address your spouse?
You should not come to your spouse with a head of steam, that's for sure. Yeah. So in my work, often you don't have that opportunity enough, unfortunately. Like, I play that role for my clients. I'm like, let it off to me so that you feel heard and you feel calm, and then you can come with a clear head with your request. In my marriage and for my like graduated clients, we spend time with ourselves. We vent to ourselves. Like, you bring the inner child and you're like, I am so hurt. I can't believe he said that stuff, or I can't believe he forgot that thing. And you cry and you literally let all that emotion come out first. And then you get to the bottom of, well, what do I need from this man to feel better? How do I approach him with something that will actually repair our relationship, as opposed to just, I need to prove him wrong. I need to show him how bad he was. Because when we get in that dynamic, that's really what causes the downward spiral in relationship.
Yeah. How important is perspective to you? Because I can sometimes people just completely see things in a certain event a different way, right? So you're upset, you're fuming about it. Meanwhile, he had no idea that you would see it that way, and that was not his intention. Like, how
Yes.
important is perspective in your work?
Oh, it's everything. It's everything. You made such a good point there, because if you're married to a good man, you make the assumption he doesn't want to hurt your feelings. So you have to be committed to that assumption. There is no way that he meant to hurt my feelings. There's no way he did this on purpose, because 9 times out of 10, more than that, he is just living his life oblivious to what would hurt you. And you can take that personally too. Oh, he's inconsiderate and he's so selfish and whatever. Is that going to make you fall in love with him more? No. So we tried to let go of all those accusations first. And then, like you said, come down to, okay, I'm going to share my perspective with an open heart of, I bet he has no idea. And I'm going to be gentle, because I wouldn't like to be blindsided with, how dare you do that? What were you thinking?
Yeah.
How could you? And you're like, what did I do? Like, I didn't mean to do anything. And you're so right. Men and women really think so differently. And it's amazing to me, because even though I've been studying this work for so long, it still kind of blows my mind, where I'm like, wow, we really came at that from opposite ends.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it's okay, because we're all human, but it's just important to take that into consideration, right? For like letting things like just go off the rails completely. So I wanted to ask you, everybody talks about toxic, right? Toxicity, things like that. What's the difference to you between like a normal problem and like a problem that's actually toxic and can really derail your marriage?
That's a great question. The difference is the pattern, because everybody will have a couple nasty fights or say things they didn't mean. And yeah, that would be technically abusive. Like if people are calling names, or if they're, attacking your character, or they've lied, or they don't want to talk about it and they won't apologize. Like everybody will have moments that are like really unhealthy in their marriage. And I want everybody to hear that. You could have an amazing marriage and you could have some ugly moments where you're just like, ooh, I don't want to look at myself. I don't want to look at them. Like, this felt bad. But when you're in a truly toxic relationship, or what I'll call emotionally abusive relationship, there's a very predictable cycle, which is like something horrible is done. And then there's pretend it didn't happen. And then there's a honeymoon where you're just going to get love bombed through that whole phase until you open your heart again. And then you're going to get smacked down again as soon as you let your heart open again. And it's so sad. Like, I've worked with women in these types of cycles, and it's like, there is nothing you can do to change that man's behavior. Nothing. And that's almost how you can tell, like, in a normal relationship, the things a woman does has a huge influence on the man in her life. So if she's like open-hearted and she's smiling, all of a sudden he's in a good mood. Or like, if she's receptive and appreciative, he's like working harder. And you'll see that he's very much oriented to her responses to him. Even if he doesn't say it, he'll immediately shift. Like my clients, 3-4 sessions, their husband's acting totally different. Like, it's crazy. But when you're working with a man who is abusive, he is so much into his own pattern of controlling you that he would rather you be miserable and on this cycle than happy and appreciating him. He'll see that as like, oh, you're gaining power, you're acting different, this is not safe, and he will find a way to undercut that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Are there any warning signs for women who don't realize that they're in like a toxic marriage? What like 3 warning signs would you give?
One would be that he attacks your character. Like if he's calling you nasty names, and if he's saying you're a bad mom, and if he's getting you, like, these abusive people, they know where the weak spot is and they will hit it. And it will be predictable that he goes for the jugular every time. So that is something a normal man will not do. Typical men, they might get mad and get frustrated, but they have a lot of honor around that, and they would never attack the mother of their children in that way. Even if they was his crazy ex, they wouldn't do it, because they have that level of character where they were like, no, I'm not going in on her like that. So if a man does that, he's not in control of himself. He's way past, right? You don't want to deal with a man who will attack you on that level. The other thing would be that he will surprise you when you're happy with meanness. So again, a normal man, you're happy. He's like, yay, wife's happy in the house. I'm just going to like let it be. Like he's going to kind of bask in your glow. He'll probably be at his best when you're happy. Just like so grateful to have a happy woman. An abusive man will see it as an opportunity to keep you off balance.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll be like, oh, it's her birthday and her friends are coming. Let's tell her she's an ugly bitch. You know, like it will be at that moment when you're just peaking, you'll just get clotheslined. Again, a normal man will love your happiness so much he wouldn't dare, like it wouldn't even cross his mind to do something like this.
Yeah.
These men are so different. Like it's so different. And
Yeah.
I always want to say this because some normal problems are like, you know, not very good at communication or like doesn't apologize very well. And then people will hear stories from these abusive relationships and they'll think it's the same thing. It's not at all the same thing. And I would say the third one is that he does not want you to have your passions or he doesn't want you to grow and develop.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, if you go and get a new degree, or if you start a business, you might become so powerful that you leave him.
Yeah.
So he will be very much thwarting any efforts to make friends, to connect with your family, to get a degree, to start a new job. And again, a good man will be like, one more for the team. He'll be high-fiving you. He'll be doing everything he can to like cheer you on, because in a healthy relationship or just a normal relationship, he sees you as one. Like your success is my success. There's no threat there.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you try to start up-leveling and developing yourself, he's going to make it that very, very difficult for you.
I think this is so important even for women who are not married yet. These are some warning signs that you can see when you're dating, right? Cut that off. You're not legally connected to this person. You can more easily, disconnect from that. So I'm so glad you pointed that out. Some people think it's just that these things can be trivial. Oh, he didn't mean it. Even if they see it over and over, and it's like, no, this is not good for you. You deserve better than this, right? There is better out there, right?
Yes.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. That's like huge.
I want to add one thing onto that, because you made a point when they say like he didn't mean it. It doesn't matter if he meant it. And that's the part we get caught up in as women. Like, well, why would he do that? And does he really mean to hurt me? And like, maybe he's too traumatized and he's had a real abusive childhood and stuff. And like, yeah, there's lots of good reasons that he's really messed up, but it doesn't change the impact it has on you. And truly, women in these relationships get autoimmune diseases. Like they get sick because it's so damaging to be with someone who puts you on that emotional roller coaster. So I echo what you said. If you have any of these red flags show up early in a relationship, don't let yourself get pregnant, don't get married, because it is really hard to have to deal with someone like this long term.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that so much. So here's one along those lines. Why do you think the divorce rate is like so high?
Yeah, so I think one of the reasons it's so high is that we don't have good models for marriage. So we think, well, if I'm really in love, then it'll work. Like we honestly rely on Hollywood to tell us what a relationship should work like. And in most of Hollywood, the relationship ends after you fall in love and get married, and you don't get to hear about all the intervening years of children and ups and downs and whatever. They might flash to the end when you're this old couple. When did we learn about how to navigate this middle part? Our parents are divorced for the most part, or they had unhappy marriages where they stayed together.
Mm-hmm.
So we go out totally clueless about what are the skills to create a great relationship, clueless about what we should look for in a healthy partner, clueless about how we should develop ourselves to then attract that person. Like when I look back on myself, like we are just lost. It's the most important decision in the world, and we have none of the skills to do it and none of the rubric. And then also we're told if you're not happy, you should get divorced, which lack of happiness happens all over the place for lots of reasons. But the easiest thing to change is your partner. So then a lot of divorce happens because people don't know how to navigate their own emotions and make choices and set boundaries. And then it's also because we have so many options. We think that the grass is greener because we get peppered with all these fantasies online and all these people. And the beginning of a relationship will always look better than the difficult phase of a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
So if you think, oh, but that person listens to me, like women will often get in affairs because he listens so well to my problems.
Yeah.
Your husband listened to your problems when you were dating too. Like any man who's trying to get with you is going to listen to your problems.
Yeah.
So we need to be, we lack that maturity of seeing the long range and how to cultivate love in the long term.
Yeah. Well, I love this. This is so helpful. Like I said, not even just for married women, just I think all women need to need to hear what you said today, because it's just that profound, and it can help. I really see it helping them avoid like some really bad situations and some heartache and a lot of lost years that you don't get back because you don't get your time back, right? So this is so helpful. So thank you so much for being with us today. And I have one last question for you. So it doesn't have to be related to what we talked about today. It can be anything that you've experienced in life. What's one thing you can think of, one piece of advice to give another woman that might just like wake her up today or change her life?
I'll try to keep it short, but basically you have a lot more power than you think to change everything about your life. And so if you're unhappy or things are not working for you, go inward. Just go in, build your own strength, build your own confidence, build your own skills, because you are the only person that you're going to live with for your whole entire life. So treat yourself well.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. All right. Thank you so much, Shiloh. It's been great.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this with your girlfriends. Share this with your female friends. I guarantee you there's something in here that's going to be like a good nugget for them to know. I guarantee that. All right. Bye.